There is a candidate event going on tonight at Buell High School, 7 o'clock. Actually, this is wonderful. This was put together by a student. It's a part of a student project. There's a candidates forum. Actually, yesterday I heard about it. In fact, when Jim Woolley was in the studio, Jim mentioned it. And we'll have candidates. Well, I'm not sure that Sheriff Tom Carter has officially actually announced at this point, but you'll have I believe the sheriff along with Cliff Katona, who is going to be a potential primary opponent, who's a retired state trooper. The two of them will be answering questions from the audience. And this should be actually a very civil event, I would imagine, because I don't know a lot about Cliff yet. He dropped some paperwork off at the studio some months ago, and I said I'll hold off on primary candidates until about March. Then we'll get heavily into it at that point. But I do want to mention that just very quickly that that's going on. If you'd like to hear more and learn more really about the candidates and quite a bit about law enforcement, I would imagine too, 7 o'clock tonight at Buell High School. And unlike the East Coast, we don't have to worry about snow. And we don't have any problems with that. In fact, tonight, overnight low is only going to be down at about the freezing point, and then rain tomorrow. So fairly stable weather pattern that we happen to be in. 9:25, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. And I believe we have a caller joining us. Caller, you're on the air on KLIX.
Bill, Detroit is next to Lake St. Clair and Lake Erie. And when I was a little boy, we had coal furnaces. I used to have to put cinders in a bucket and go outside and sprinkle the cinders and ashes on the porch steps and the sidewalks. Also, with regard to an electrical grid going off, there would be no heat in many homes because forced air heat needs electricity. Also, baseboard hot water, they need electricity to push the heat.
No, thank you. Coal, by the way, we had a house when I was a kid. The entire front of the basement was filled with coal all the way up to the about a foot below the living room floor. And I remember having to shovel that out of there with my brother, who was kind of sloppy sometimes about the work. And one day he turned around and he caught me with a shovel just to the right side of my mouth. And for years I had a sort of like a bluish black scar on the corner of the right side of my mouth from the coal dust beneath that. I was reading today that the Obama White House, the Daily Caller has a piece on this, in its effort to wipe out the coal industry, has impoverished about half a dozen states in the Appalachians. Because for every job that somebody has working in a coal mine, it is believed that helps create 11 other jobs in the local economy. So if you've got 3,000 guys who get let go by a coal company, and one of the biggest ones just went bankrupt a couple of weeks ago, if 3,000 guys get let go, that means 33,000 other people are going to lose their jobs. Isn't that sweet? Mr. Obama says, oh, well, the Mother Earth is far more important than all of you. And I have it in good authority that you whiteys didn't vote for me the last 2 times out. 9:27 now, 31, Bill Colley with you on Top Story. And you're on the air. You're up next. You're on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com.
Good morning, Bill. Speaking of coal, last year we've seen the total collapse of stock prices for the biggest coal producers and reserve owners in the United States. Peabody, Massey Energy, total collapse from $90 a share down to less than $1. George Soros scooped up those companies for nothing.
Uh-huh.
And now, get this, just last week, the Department of the Interior has canceled all new coal leases in the United States. Okay? What's that going to do to the price of coal? And I'll bet by July, they're going to tell us coal is the greatest thing in the world, and we can eat it on our ice cream.
The previous governor of Montana was appearing on 60 Minutes some years ago, and he was trying to convince people that, coal was not that harmful. And he said, my state is the Saudi Arabia of coal. We've got more coal than anybody else in the world has, and we're fools to think that just because we wiped the industry out, that the rest of the world isn't going to continue to burn it.
Absolutely right. Our coal is going to leave America now that George Soros controls it. You just watch.
It worked out well for him. I thank you much for the call. You're next. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning. With the coal industry, the power plants, the mines, everything being so important to America, this is when President Barack America is shutting down all the coal plants.
Yeah, I genuinely believe there is a conspiracy afoot to wipe away middle America, to make us all dependents on his
Absolutely.
big government.
Absolutely.
Hey, thank you much for the call. I've got a break coming up in about 30 seconds. Half an hour of the show still left. I've just looked up at the TV monitor. Fox News now has an icon in the right hand side, and it doesn't move. You see all of the other stories going on, but this says tracking major blizzard. It snows, people. It's called winter. It snowed in the D.C. area. Oh, it snowed hard there back in February 2010. We had 3 storms in an 11-day stretch. And you know what? Life went on. The previous year, in 2009, the D.C. area had a storm that dumped about a foot and a half. In 1996, the D.C. area had a storm that dumped about a foot and a half. It happens. I don't know about you, but 6 months from now, when it's sweltering and they have the usual, if you've ever been in Washington in summer, I think you probably would appreciate an occasional big blast of a snowstorm coming through. And all those government workers, they all got sent home. We keep hearing that a government shutdown's a terrible thing. Yeah, right.